Me standing at 6 feet 3 inches and her at 4 feet 11 inches. That was the memory of the first night I visited her place. Our height difference has sure caused its share of challenges. She looked up at me, clearly frustrated, and said, "This just won't do." Whispering that, she climbed onto me. My name's Benjamin, a 26-year-old single office worker. After college, I got a job at the only company that gave me an offer. I know I'm an introvert and a bit gloomy by nature. The company probably made a mistake hiring someone like me for sales. A job in sales is the last thing I'm suited for. But I'd like to think I gave it my best shot. No matter how hard I tried, the gap between my peers and me was evident. I just couldn't meet the sales targets, and the end and beginning of every month were torture. I could sense that my peers and colleagues looked down on me and made fun of me behind my back. I wondered if there was something, anything, I could be good at, so I kept one habit from the day I joined. I would come into the office earlier than anyone and clean my desk. Since it's the main office building, there are janitors who come in early. I would focus on the small areas and places on the desk, places only I would notice. By keeping up with this routine, I somehow managed to boost my self-confidence. "Well, Benjamin, you are early again this morning." The most senior janitor, a sweet old lady, approaches me. Over the mornings we'd see each other, I'd grown quite close to the janitors. "Good morning, it's pretty chilly today, isn't it?" Our usual morning greeting and a bit of chit-chat. Every now and then, they would ask for my help to move things from high places. One of the few things I've got going for me is my height. Both my mom and dad were tall folks. I currently stand at 6 feet 4 inches. So, moving things placed high up is pretty easy for me. As I chat with the older lady, one janitor after another drops by to say hello. They're also kind, making me feel more at ease than when I'm with my co-workers. "Good morning, Benjamin," a soft voice greets. The greeting comes from a young part-time janitor named Sarah. Sarah was a part-timer in the janitorial department of the company. She's not a full-time staff, started working here this spring. I believe she's about 4 feet 11 inches tall, but she always tries her hardest to look up at me when she talks. I became close to her around the time she started in spring. There had been a little incident back then. The janitors don't just clean in the mornings, they keep various places within the building tidy throughout the day. That day, Sarah was on her first ever midday shift. She was primarily an early morning worker, so this was her first daytime shift, and she seemed quite overwhelmed with the differences. During the early morning shifts, she rarely encounters any staff other than me. During the day, in the hallway full with employees bustling around in suits, Sarah was approached by one of my peers named Mike. Sarah, well, she's more than just a little cute. I'm not exaggerating, she genuinely is. The first time I saw her, I was so taken aback by her beauty that I completely forgot to greet her. She has porcelain-like fair skin and her face is characterized by large eyes with light pigmentation. I guess Mike too was captivated by her appearance. "Excuse me, I'm working right now." She seemed to be persistently asked for her contact info, answering in a soft voice while looking down. She seemed to shrink, making her already petite frame appear even smaller. "You're just a part-timer, and you're defying a staff member. You're just in cleaning. It's not a big deal to share your contact." Sarah seemed cornered and on the verge of tears in the corner of the hallway. Mike, who always has an intimidating demeanor even towards our peers, seemed relentless in pressuring her. "Mike, just leave her alone. Can't you see she's scared?" I gripped Mike's shoulder and intervened. When Mike turned to face me, he was momentarily taken aback by my height. Probably in the entire office, only a few could look down at the fairly tall Mike like I could. Upon realizing it was me, Mike smirked dismissively. "Oh, it's you." Sarah, you can go back to your work. You've still got a lot of work remaining, right? At my words, Sarah nodded and muttered "excuse me," and bowed her head. She then swiftly disappeared down the hallway. Mike clicked his tongue in annoyance, watching her go. Mind your own business. She's none of your concern. Just because she's new doesn't mean you should tease her like that. It's not fair. I guess Mike didn't like the fact that I, who usually doesn't talk back, was objecting. Mike shot me a glare. From that day on, Mike and I were like oil and water. Mike might have been a disagreeable guy, but there was one aspect of him I had to respect. That was his sales record. He always boasted top sales. A feat that's something I could never do, even if I tried my hardest. Not to brag, but I'm known for being diligent and thorough in my work. Yet my sales numbers never improve. I'm often told that I'm a likable person, but that doesn't necessarily translate to sales. The end and start of every month is truly tough. Walking into work at the beginning of the month, I feel a pit in my stomach. I sigh deeply as I flip the calendar page in the office, dreading another month ahead. Benjamin, your sighs can be heard all the way out in the hallway. From the office door, Sarah peeked in, smiling. It seemed she was just cleaning the hallway. She smiled, probably trying to cheer me up. Why does the first of every month have to roll around? It's kind of a downer. In a playful tone, I responded, and she let out a bubbly laugh. I couldn't help but laugh too. It felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, even if just a little. Sarah once confided in me that she was quite shy and found it hard to get along with anyone at work other than me. Even now, she probably dug deep for the courage to get that laugh out of me. Knowing that I couldn't be down in the dumps. She's pushing herself out of her comfort zone. I felt that I should step up too, otherwise, I might let her down. Normally, I'd keep my head down during our monthly morning meetings. But today, I held my head up with confidence, probably thanks to Sarah. Her presence started to have a growing impact on my life. Then one day, as I was about to head out for an outdoor assignment, I overheard a familiar voice coming from behind the office building. It was Mike's voice. He said he was heading out for some field sales calls. I didn't really want to run into him, so I tried to avoid going his direction, but I stopped for a moment. Between the sound of Mike's voice, I heard a faint voice. It was Sarah's voice. She was saying "please stop" in a soft voice. I quickly dashed towards where the voice came from. There, Sarah, looking like she was about to cry, was being held by her thin arm by Mike. "You're still young but already stuck in such a bottom-tier job. Has your life already hit rock bottom? Why not date me? It'd be like hitting the jackpot. Isn't that what you're aiming for?" Mike kept hurling such incredibly derogatory remarks at Sarah, laughing it off. The appalling nature of his words made my blood boils. I forcefully placed myself between them, shielding Sarah behind me. "Och, it's you again, Benjamin." Mike glared at me, clicking his tongue. I spread my arms wide, hiding Sarah from Mike's view. "Just stop it, man. You're obviously bothering her." As Mike and I argued, some of our colleagues gathered around. Most of them were on Mike's side. It felt like I was on the away team. But I couldn't back down. "Don't pick on her for no reason," Mike mocked me with a sneer. Similarly, the colleagues surrounding me laughed. It was frustrating, but there was nothing I could do. I had to grit my teeth and bear it. Don't act all high and mighty just because you're in front of a girl. You've got the worst sales record this month, right? A guy who doesn't earn much is surely not her type. Huh? Mike ridiculed me, laughing it off. The colleagues just followed Mike's lead. Unable to respond, I bit my lip. The person who came to my rescue was quite unexpected. "Hey, it's cowardly to gang up on one person like that. Haven't you grown up yet to realize that?" An elderly woman, The most senior janitor among us scolded Mike and his gang, raising an eyebrow. The force and momentum of her words made Mike and his group take a step back. There's certainly something about the aura of the elderly. Moreover, there's a rumor that this lady is quite close to the CEO. Given she's been here for quite some time, that rumor probably holds some truth. Mike must have remembered that rumor. Whatever, old lady. With those dismissive words, he hastily left. Thank you so much. You saved me. I was of no help at all, I said, scratching my head. The elderly lady firmly shook her head. It's the intention to help that's truly admirable. Hearing those kind words, I felt a bit embarrassed. I'm not used to receiving compliments. The only person who ever praised me was my late mom, I believe. Benjamin, thank you so much. I always seem to be in need of help. Please allow me to repay you sometime. Sarah said with a whispering voice while facing down, probably still in embarrassment. I could see her slender neck turning bright red. I felt like I'd caught a glimpse of something I shouldn't have and my heart raced. Feeling embarrassed, I was at a loss for words, so I just nodded repeatedly. A few days later, trouble arose. I'm pretty sure it was all because of Mike's misplaced resentment. One morning, there was an uproar over missing important documents. People were saying they'd been thrown away as trash. Mike was cursing loudly, shouting, "Call the janitors." The boss got wind of the commotion and summoned all the janitorial staff. They stood in a line, and Mike, acting all high and mighty, started trying to pinpoint the culprit. Even our manager seemed to be under Mike's thumb. Honestly, the manager should have put a stop to this kind of public shaming. But he didn't. Mike, with a malicious smirk, pointed at the head janitor, an older woman. It was you, wasn't it? I know you're in charge of the trash in this department. Do you have a grudge against me? How are you going to take responsibility for this? He yelled at her, biting his teeth in anger. The janitor just glared back at him silently. I'm pretty sure Mike intentionally placed the documents where they'd be mistaken for trash. I quietly asked a colleague nearby what document had gone missing. His answer puzzled me. Because it was a document that shouldn't be missing. The janitors wouldn't touch those documents, right? They're kept in a locked cabinet after all. I raised my hand and began to speak up. If it was mistakenly thrown away, it's Mike's fault for not securing it, not the janitors. I tried to explain this. Hearing my words, the manager seemed to realize the truth and quickly used his key to open the cabinet. We weren't allowed to touch that key. It's in the second drawer from the top, fifth file from the left. Having a good memory was my only strong point. My sales performance wasn't great, but I probably knew more about the goings-on in the office than anyone else present. Mike glared at me and muttered, "Mind your own business." The document was found exactly where I'd said, and everyone breathed a sigh of relief. The only person with a sour face was Mike. He returned to his desk without apologizing to the janitors. I tried to follow him to make him apologize but was stopped by the head janitor. "It's okay, Benjamin. Thank you, you've been a great help." When she told me this, I stopped in my tracks. Seeing her forcing a smile, with a hint of sadness, made me feel like crying. "Don't be silly. You don't need to cry. You're really a sweet person." Truth be told, I should have been the one comforting the older lady who was hurt, but instead, she was the one comforting me. It was embarrassing. As I escorted her to the hallway, I noticed the CEO hiding behind the door. He might have witnessed all the havoc. Tearing up at work, that's unprofessional. After the CEO saw my embarrassing moment, I felt down for the rest of the day. That weekend, there was a party for the company's foundation anniversary. Once a year, those with outstanding sales and contributions to the company are honored at the party. The event is meant to boost employee morale and appreciate their efforts. Everyone associated with the company gathers here. Contractors, custodial staff, and the chefs from the cafeteria, all were in attendance. It was set up as a stand-up reception, and everyone was in a relaxed mood that day. I'm not good with glamorous settings and large crowds. Honestly, I just wanted to escape from the party. To make matters worse, my peers were continuously being recognized. One after another, they were called and proudly ascended to the stage, while I merely watched from below. I understand that's just how it is, but it's hard not to feel disheartened. I kept wondering if there's really a place for me in this company. Of course, Mike was honored as the best salesperson. Seeing his proud face made me feel a bit jealous. I tried to blend into the wall, and that's when I noticed Sarah also trying to stay out of sight. I'm not good with these events, Sarah said with an awkward smile, to which I replied, me neither. I could see Mike and some others looking for someone. They were weaving through the janitors, probably looking for Sarah. I gently hid her behind my back. Being petite, she easily disappeared behind my 6'3" frame. Just stay behind me. Being tall is the only thing I've got going for me. Sarah placed her hand on my back and whispered a soft thank you, so faintly that only I could hear. She stayed hidden behind me until the CEO finished his speech. Once the party was over, most of the employees headed out for the after party. I was left alone, as usual. It's always the same story. The janitors, cafeteria staff, and contractors remained. Everyone was waiting to take home the flowers from the stage. Sarah seemed to be looking forward to the flowers too. Soon, an event coordinator appeared and prepared the flowers to be taken home. I took a bunch and made a small bouquet. Here you go, Sarah. As I handed her the bouquet, her face lit up with joy. Seeing her so genuinely happy for the first time made my heart race. I deeply wished I had the right words to tell her how I feel. I was captivated by her smile. Suddenly, the stage spotlight turned on. It became so bright that I had to squint. Sales department, Benjamin, please come to the stage. A loud voice called my name in a sudden, and I jumped in surprise. And they're asking me to come up on stage. Confused, I made my way up, and there were all the janitors I always greet. Everyone was smiling cheerfully. As I approached, an older lady began reading out a certificate she had been hiding behind her. Benjamin, we present you with this award for being the kindest and most wonderful employee in this building. They handed me a handwritten certificate on a regular piece of paper. Where it should have had the CEO's name, there were names of the janitors and other workers. Towards the end, it looked almost like a collection of signatures. It was a lively certificate, and it warmed my heart. I had never received such a heartfelt award before. Really, for me. Thank you, I'm so touched. I clutched the certificate to my chest with both hands. It felt like everyone's warmth was flowing into me. This is the best award ceremony, isn't it? Suddenly, from the entrance, there was a loud applause and voice. Looking over, to my shock, the CEO was clapping for me. What? The CEO? Whoa! I was too overwhelmed to speak. After all, in my eyes, the CEO was almost a celestial being, not someone who would clap for just me. And he was approaching me saying excellent. I hurriedly stepped down from the stage and bowed to the CEO. It seems like they really admire you. They told me you always greet them early in the morning and help with the cleaning. The CEO said with a kind smile. In my nervousness, I shared something I didn't necessarily need to. I explained to the CEO that my late mother always told me, greeting is a basic human courtesy. I wanted to say it was her teaching, not my merit. The CEO patiently listened to my rambling. I realized how understanding he truly was. After listening to my story, the CEO suddenly got an idea. "Benjamin, from tomorrow, you'll be transferring to the secretary's office. I want you to work in a department where you can fully utilize your skills." Stunned by the sudden announcement, all I could say was, "What? And could I even handle such a responsibility?" There's a saying, right person in the right place. I want a secretary with compassion, someone who can understand people's feelings. You're perfect for it. The first to cheer at the CEO's words was Sarah. "That's amazing, Benjamin. Congratulations." She was jumping up and down with joy, almost as if she herself had been promoted. Seeing her reaction, even the CEO began to laugh. And then, in a voice no one else could hear, the CEO whispered to me, "You two look good together." So much was happening all at once, and I was struggling to process it all in my head. To add to it, the boss cheekily said, "Let me play matchmaker for you." I replied with confidence, "I'd appreciate it if you did." Seeing me like that, the boss smiled with satisfaction. I wanted to express my deepest gratitude to my late mother. Such a miracle could only have happened because of her teachings. After the CEO left, Sarah bent down from the stage and hugged my arm. Her soft and petite body made my heart race, as if it might burst. A few years later, I wasn't alone anymore. When I finished work and came home, she was there to greet me. Sarah and I got married 2 years after that company's founding anniversary party. I remember the night she first invited me to her apartment. Me at 6 feet 3 inches and she at 4 feet 11 inches. Our height difference did cause some challenges. "Is this okay?" I asked her. She responded with a discontent look, staying silent. What should I do?" Her face clearly showed her dissatisfaction with whatever I was doing. "This won't do," Sarah murmured and suddenly jumped onto me. Even though she's light, the sittiness caught me off guard. "Benjamin, a bit more to the right," she struggled atop my back. She was cleaning the top storage space in her room. Even though we decided to move to a new place after getting married, her room was still a mess. Turns out, the reason she had a cleaning job was that she was terrible at tidying up. When I found out, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. Despite it being our first night together, we were both covered in dust, cleaning. I moved right and left, following her directions while she was on my back. We must have looked ridiculous. It was silly, but it made me smile. When we're married, I'll handle the cleaning. Don't waste my efforts. That's how our first night together passed. Now, it's truly a cherished memory. Of course, our matchmaker was the CEO. In gratitude for all he'd done for me, I worked tirelessly and was recognized for my contributions to the company's growth by receiving the CEO's award. I became the first employee outside of the sales department to get an award. It was a moment of pride, knowing that I'd kept the promises I'd made with my mother all these years.